Miss Carrie so she can introduce our speaker tonight.
Thanks, Richard. Hey, y'all. My name's Carrie. I'm an alcoholic. Hey. Hi. I have had just the honor of getting to know this lady in the past 4-something years. And I was thinking back when she walked in, her life was a mess. Yeah, like all of ours were, but it's been truly just a gift to watch her walk through some of the hardest things and do it with such grace and love and strength and hope. And I know she's going to share that with you guys tonight. So introduce Shanon. And get ready, y'all, because there's going to be some tears before she runs away. Already starting. Get the first tear out of the way. Hi, everyone. My name is Shanon.
Hey, Shanon.
And I am an alcoholic. Okay. I made notes. I had a feeling that this might happen, so I promise, guys, we're going to get through this hour in minimal tears, so just bear with me on it. So my name is Shanon. I'm alcoholic. Hey, my sobriety date is April 23rd, 2019, and what a different life I live now. So it's such an honor to be up here and to share my story. This is my first time. And to share what has happened in my life and the recovery that I've experienced through it, it's very emotional because sobriety changed the trajectory of my life. It is everything. And so to be able to be up here and to talk about it, I just hope I can get through it without too many tears and have some sense of my story. So it's a little overwhelming being up here. And when I was talking to my sponsor, she's like, it's very simple. Just break it down, right? So, what it was like, in my notes, what happened, and what it's like now. And that was something I could do. I could do 3 15-minute sections, but 45 minutes as a whole was way too much. And, it's funny because that's what this program is. It's just little sections. To take it all on at once would be too much, at least for me. So I'm thankful that I can have the advice to break it down in a program that breaks it down. So I did cheat a little. I'm going to do 5 minutes with my childhood and then 10 minutes, so, bear with me. But I wanted to give you guys just a little bit of a backstory. Growing up, and I'm so thankful that my brother's here. So, growing up, we had an alcoholic home. We had alcoholic generations. But it wasn't alcoholic to me. That was just life. That's just drinking, right? Pictures of your 2-year-old drinking a beer, like that's just normal. And so, when I was young, I was probably, maybe 1 or 2. Our uncle was killed by a drunk driver. He was very young. He was 19. And, being asked to tell my story has really made me kind of go back into my life and think about, things that have happened to get me where I am. And it's funny because I haven't thought about that in decades. But it was December 2nd, and I think that it is a God wink that I am telling my story in December. So that kind of just, it just kind of came full circle. But all of that to say, my uncle was killed by a drunk driver, and I remember it was always embedded to not drink and drive. Don't drink and drive, don't drink and drive. It wasn't don't drink. It was just don't drink and drive. And I remember we went to the Sacramento, to the Capitol for a MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I was young, and it was my brother, me, and my cousin, and my grandma, and I just remember just all of these people with candles and these MAD signs, and I didn't understand the gravity of it, but I did tell myself I would never do that. I would never drink and drive, ever. Well, when alcohol takes over, what we say we won't do changes. And so, to speed up a little bit with that, so I just feel like that's just a beautiful thing for me to be able to remember that and talk about it and talk about something, because all the people that were in our lives at that time, they're not here anymore. So to be able to bring that out loud feels good. And then, so growing up in an alcoholic home, my grandpa was horrible drunk. He was mean. He really liked my brother and I, so we were good. But like the rest of the family, y'all, he was that mean old man. And I remember when I was little, my grandma came over like once or twice to spend the night, and I thought that was so fun. Like it was a sleepover. Never did I know, because, I don't know what happened in the house. I just knew she had to leave. And just crazy to think, like when you're a kid, it's fun. Grandma's here for the night. She braided my hair while we watched TV, and never understanding the horror that she was living, or my grandpa, right? Because he was in his addiction. So, my brother and I were lucky enough to have a family unit. My mom married a wonderful man when my brother and I were young, and he raised us, and, that's our dad. And life was, we struggled, but everyone struggles, right? Like, we didn't have the socioeconomics like everybody else, and there was, some things that we had to go without, but like there was love, but there was also addiction. And, it's funny because I think there's a lot that I don't remember, and I don't know if it's because I choose not to or I blocked out or what, but when I get to talk to my brother, he'll say, "Oh, you don't remember coming home and Dad being like passed out on the porch?" And I'm like, no, I don't remember any of that. So, I think like, oh my gosh, how much don't I remember that, affected me. So, but there, it was never any violence, never, it was just my mom was deep into her addiction. She didn't drink because her brother was killed by a drunk driver, but she did a lot of pills. And so, that was really hard growing up with her on pills, and then, my dad drinking. But my anger was towards my mom. It wasn't towards my dad. And I remember one time I came home from school. I think I was in high school. And I had a friend with me, and I opened the door, and she was just so gone. She couldn't say my name. Like, it was just hollow face, and I was so embarrassed. And I thought, man, I'm never going to do that. Well, just like the drinking and driving, it's funny when alcohol takes over, the things that you say you're not going to do, you do. So fast forward. So that's my childhood in a nutshell, right? I get married at 19, right out of high school, and drinking, I didn't think it was an issue, right? Like it was something that we did as a couple. We lived on a military base, so we had a lot of like GIs over, and that was fun. And I just couldn't, I couldn't keep up with the men, so that's why I would pass out or be the one throwing up in the bathroom. And it was just never a problematic that I thought. But it was becoming routine. But, and again, when I started drinking, it was fun. It was social. I was young. It was just something you do. You go out for cocktails, or you have friends over, and, you wake up the next day and you're like giddy because you just had so much fun. And that's how it started for me, but I never could stop. When the friends would leave or we'd come home from being at dinner, it was just more and more drinking. My husband at the time could stop. He didn't need to keep drinking, and it was just always needing more. And the book talks about that. And I wasn't ready to hear that until I came in totally at my bottom, that I was like, okay, the book talks about it. So, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm staying on course. So we lived at Fort Belving, Georgia. Sorry, my words are jumbled. I lived there for about 9 months, and then we moved to Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And again, social drinking, nothing that I thought was too big of a deal. But, you know, looking back now, there were so many times that I had, you know, put myself in dangerous situations, that I had put coworkers in dangerous situations with just drinking too much at bars. But I always just chalked it up to being young. I'm 21. I'm a newlywed. I don't have kids. I live in D.C. Like, who wouldn't be out there? You know, there was always a justification. And it made sense to me, and it made sense to everyone around me. So just kind of went with it. So cruising through life, not really talking much to my mom, not really talking much to my dad, just kind of being out there on my own. Not really talking much to my brother either, you know, just isolating, really. So we moved back to California, and I moved back 6 months or so before my husband at the time moved back. He was needing discharge papers and stuff, so I got to rent a house and to be on my own. And it's funny because every night I would pack my alarm clock and my toothbrush and drive over to my parents' house and sleep in my room because I didn't want to be by myself. And that was a very fond memory. And, you know, that was something special that I got to do with my parents. You know, every night they'd know, oh, Shannon's coming over. But I just was insecure and didn't want to live on my own. And so, like, again, you know, drinking wasn't a thing. Like, life was just life. And then, you know, I get pregnant with my first daughter, and no alcohol. Like, it was not an issue. And continuing the course, I remember one time with Caitlin, she was just maybe 6 or 7 months old, and Jason and I, that was my husband, went to my parents' house for dinner, and my mom had made chili, and we're sitting at the table, and she's eating, but there's nothing left in her bowl, right? Like, because she's just that, and her addiction. I was so mad, and I snatched up Caitlin and all of these threats, like, you're not going to see your granddaughter and all of this. And I would never do that. I tell myself I'd never, ever do that. I'd never put my kids in harm like that or act that way around them. Again, one of those things. So I didn't talk to her for a while. My dad, you know, he would call and just say, hey, your mom's really sorry. She doesn't mean it. Like, so it was just always this resentment, and it drove a lot of my self feeling sorry for myself. Once I actually got to do the work on these steps and break it all down, you know, I could never see her addiction for her addiction. I could just see her as my mom being absent. And it's funny because, again, my dad drank the whole time, and I never had the feeling towards my dad. So, you know, that was just something that was really deep-rooted. And we lost our dad, tragically, shortly after the chili, I would say, maybe a month or so. And my mom went through that. You know, she went through that. I remember Joe and I sitting there in the hospital room with my mom, and the doctors came in, and, like, I was just so selfish and self-centered. Like, I couldn't see her for who she was, even in a moment like that. Just because, I'm like, oh, she's just going to go get high, or it didn't matter what went through my head. It was a turning point in her addiction and in our lives. My dad was 49 years old, and that was something really hard to handle. And I obviously didn't have the program of Alcoholics Anonymous or the tools to be able to handle something like that. So I just buried it and continued on about my life. And so then I get pregnant with Alyssa shortly thereafter. And again, just piddling through. My mom, she got worse in her addiction during this. So I would go and check on her, make sure she was okay. And, it was just a bad state for her to be in. It was just a bad state for all of us to be in. There was a lot that happened with her addiction that, again, it just filled me with anger, and it made me feel like poor me, which I hate that, because poor her is what that was. But I just couldn't see it I couldn't see it at the time. So girls are born. They're older. They're in elementary school, and I'm the mom that volunteers every Friday. I go on all these field trips, and I'm involved, and I am drinking heavily. And the moms in the classrooms, they drink too. Yay. I was like, this is great, like sleepovers, And so it was like just this catalyst of drinking, and it was socially acceptable. Because, think about, like, alcohol is socially acceptable in every form, right? And then you go into a school, and you're part of, like, the moms, and they all drink, and they have their liquid lunches. I'm like, well, let's go, And it was like, this is what we do. And and it's fun until it's not. And so that went on for a couple years, and then the school started doing Too Good for Drugs. I don't know if you guys remember that, where it was like a week long, Alyssa, I'm sure you remember, a week long of Too Good for Drugs, where they would talk about smoking as a drug, and, street drugs, alcohol as a drug. And Caitlin would come home so mad at me for that whole week. And we would get newsletters of, just agendas and stuff of coming up. And I was like, shit, they have Too Good for Drugs coming up next week. Because I knew, like, it was just going to be turmoil. And it's safe to say that my relationship with Caitlin is similar to the relationship I had with my mom, right? And I'm just pouring gas on it. And I get mad at her. Because I'm like, alcohol is not a drug, justifying it. Like, you could buy it in the store. It's not a drug. And I was, like, really sticking to that. But during that week, I didn't drink as much, and I didn't have the moms over because, Too Good for Drugs. So that happened for about 3 years in a row. The girls were in a K through 8 school. And they continued to do it all through K through 8, but it was about 3 years in a row that she was the most upset, and then she stopped getting upset because she just was like, well, Mom's going to do what she's going to do. And I didn't realize that. I was like, thank God. She knows it's not a drug. But it's, it's what we tell ourselves. I remember for Christmas one year, Caitlin had made me... I still have it. It was like a jar of wishes. I think it was like a jar of wishes or a jar of something or other. And she had written all these things down on paper and put them up, or, put them in a jar and handed the jar, and you can, read all of them. One of them was like, so glad that my mom's not drinking. Because, I would have bits of sobriety, very, very short periods, but... And I just read that and was it didn't have an impact on me. I wasn't in enough pain. So I thanked her for the note. And I put it in her baby box, and I'm sure it's somewhere up in the attic. But, that's something that I think about. And that's not something I had thought about for many, many years until being asked to come up here and tell my story. It's amazing what comes to the surface when you think, like, what can I share? Like, what can I share that's appropriate and meaningful? And then all of a sudden, it's like all of these things, and you're like, wow, I need to do some work on that. You know, when I'm working the steps, like, that didn't come up, that didn't bubble up to the surface. They say in Alcoholics Anonymous that more will be revealed. And I didn't understand that when I first came in. I liked the way that it sounded, because more will be revealed to me meant that I don't have to do it all right now. I can do a little bit. And so I get that. More will be revealed through clarity, through working the steps, through sponsorship. It's amazing what comes out that I didn't know that I had pushed so deep down, or that had such an impact on me. So I'm thankful that more does get revealed, and it continues to. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. So I would get in this habit of, at this point, my husband worked nights. He was a ER nurse, and so he worked nights at the hospital, and I would time it. So when he would leave for work, I would pour my drink, and I'd have, a pack of smokes. I'd have a bottle or two of wine. I knew I was good because the girls were going to bed. And it was a nightly thing. And I remember calling my brother so many times, y'all. Now remember, I'm in California, and he's in Texas, 2 hours ahead. Just so drunk, wanting to talk to my mom. But she wouldn't answer the phone because she's asleep. So I'm going to call my brother. Like, just like that high school girl that calls over and over and over, like, pick up, pick up. And so, I cannot, I'm so sorry for all those times I woke you up to get mom. So, and then she would be on the phone, she's like, what's the matter? I'm like, how are you doing? What's going on? And I would be like, oh, or maybe something was bothering me, but, it's funny because I just needed my mom. So, she told me, she's like, she called me Shorty. She's like, you've got to stop. You're ruining your life. She's like, your kids are going to see you. Mom, no, I'm going to go to bed before they wake up. I'm going to sweep up all the ashes. I'm going to throw all the bottles away. They're not going to know. She's like, you're drunk. And I think I stopped calling her so much after that. Honestly. I remember the girls were in elementary school, and we had gotten in a head-on collision, taking them to school, and the car was totaled, and it wasn't my fault. They were all fine. Everyone was fine. It was just a really unfortunate thing. But when I got back to the house and I called my mom to tell her, the first thing she asked was like, God, Shanon, you weren't drinking, were you? I'm like, Mom, it's 8 a.m. I would never do that. Well, we all know. We all know that. But, that I could have been. I could have still been drunk from the night before, thinking about it. It's like you think, like, I would try to do drunk math. So if Jason leaves for work at 6 and the girls go to bed at 8, and if I can stay up until 3 and they get up at this time, like, just really just trying to, like, plan all of this. Okay, so I only really technically need 4 hours to sleep. It's just crazy because I was so serious about it. Like, it was this whole plan. And it's not the moms I drank with. Back when the girls were young, they weren't hanging out with me in the backyard at this point because they were an alcoholic. And it was just wild to think that they don't know. Because I'm in bed, and I've cleaned everything up, and it's just crazy to think the only people we're fooling is ourselves. And I think deep down, we even know that we're not fooling ourselves. Right? It's inevitable. It's only a matter of time. Okay, so now I get to go into my 15-minute section of what happened. Moving right along, guys, and on track. So, the book talks a lot. So those of you that don't know or newcomers, this is the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the first 164 pages in this book is our solution. And it is everything that you need to live life, both whether you're an alcoholic or not. It is a design for living. And I've been, this book, This book has so many highlights and smiley faces and sad faces and hearts and just like it's like my life story, and it was one of my first meetings here. A gal by the name of Betty, I'm sure a lot of you remember her. She had this book, and this was her book, but she must have saw the look on my face or something because she was like, "You need this book," and I'm like, "No, I can't take your book," and she's like, "You can take the book." And so I have the book, and every time I see her, I just give her the biggest hug because I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea the impact. She did, because we're alcoholics, so we know the impact, and that's why we come up here to tell our stories even when we're scared. But the book talks about trying to be able to stop drinking, and I was going to reference pages and do all this and that, but really the truth of the matter is I could not stop drinking once I started. I couldn't have just a glass of wine. I wanted to. I thought I could control it, and I couldn't. It always baffled me when we'd be at a restaurant and we'd pay to leave and walk by tables that the guests had left, and there's still alcohol in their glasses. It just was crazy to me. First of all, I mean that's a lot of money, and second of all, just pound it and go. I don't understand. So, but I also didn't understand the allergy and the mental obsession and everything that came with that first drink, and it's not, and there's so much said in here that they're just cliches and they just ring true. It's that first drink that gets you drunk. It's not the fifth bottle of wine or the fourth or fifth beer. It's that first drink that gets you drunk, and that was, and I just never, again, I just couldn't understand it. And so the book also talks about all the different ways to control your drinking, right? Like not drinking alone, drinking, not drinking during work hours, taking a trip, not taking a trip. And we read that often here in our group. And it's funny because it's like, oh, I can check all of those boxes, all of the things I did to try to control my drinking, and I couldn't. I couldn't at all. And it wasn't until I read, the doctor's opinion in Bill's story where it talks about the mental obsession and then what that does to an alcoholic, right? Like people can have a few beers and want to go home and go to bed. I am ready to go out or sit in the backyard by myself, and it's just crazy to me. It blows my mind the effect that alcohol can have on people, and the effect that it has on me. So in reading about it in the book, definitely brought it to light for me. And then I did write down, but the actual or potential alcoholic with hardly an exception will be absolutely unable to stop drinking based on self-knowledge. Sorry, guys. I know that's probably not right from the book, but and I couldn't based on self-knowledge. I couldn't try to mathematically get my way out of it. So fast forward, my relationship with my girls are delicate at best. Caitlin and I were pretty much severed. Alyssa, I'm sorry that you saw all that, but it was delicate. And my husband at the time was done with it. He was done with me drinking. He was done worrying about the kids when he would leave for work, as he should have, because that whole drinking and driving that I talked about at the beginning, I did with my kids in the car. That's the kind of drunk I was, and it was always so innocent. And I would make it fun. We're gonna go. You can pick out a candy bar, or you can get whatever you want. You can get chips. You can do this. You can do that. And it was just, the motive was always to get more alcohol. And kids are smart. They get it, but they also wanted the candy bar. So I drove drunk with my girls, and that came back to bite me even more so in the ass. And I say that, and I'm honest with that, because this program has taught me that to be completely vulnerable is to be real. And by me sharing something so shameful, it allows someone else to be heard, you know, if they felt that way too, or if they've done that too, because we do recover. And I've learned in here that our secrets keep us sick. And that was a big one for me. So, secrets, you know, I'd ask my girls, like, don't tell Dad, and not even understanding or appreciating the level of manipulation that was. And it was so I can get drunk, you know. And then I'd wake up the next day and hate myself because, damn it, I did it again. And I let them down, and I feel like shit, and I'm hungover, and I'm a terrible mom. And so I've shared this in a meeting before. I had this pink bathrobe. And it was long, and it was like this terry cloth pink bathrobe with a deep pocket, so I can put like a bottle of wine and a pack of smokes in it and go in the backyard. But I had this pink robe that I had for years and years and years, and there were a couple family meetings that were called after a really particular bad night of drinking that Mom wasn't going to drink anymore. And I would remember coming out with that pink robe, except for there's tissues in my pocket because I'm crying, and I'm just like, I'm not going to do it again. I'm so sorry, I'm not going to do it again, and meaning that with every fiber of my being. The first few times, I think that they were like, okay, she's not going to do it again. This is great. And, you know, there would be periods of sobriety, white-knuckling it for sure, not happy, just a dry drunk and trying to take it to the trail and run it off, and, you know, it didn't work. So this pink robe comes full circle because now here we are living in Texas, and Alyssa and I are in our place, and the pink robe's hanging in the bathroom. And I walk by and I freaking hate that robe. I hate that robe. Why do I still have this robe? So I'm like, Alyssa, we have got to throw this pink robe away. And she's like, Mom, I hate that robe. So we don't have the pink robe anymore. But, you know, it's just, but all of that to say, like, you know, that was family meetings. Here comes Mom, hungover and ashamed and embarrassed and just feeling like a horrible letdown in this pink-ass robe, you know, and it didn't stick. As many times as I tried, it didn't stick. So we moved to Texas. We moved to Texas in 2017. But I want to back up a little bit first before we talk about Texas Shanon drinking. I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous in California. Again, it was after a particular bad night. Jason had taken the girls to his mom's because I was drunk and he wasn't comfortable leaving them to go to work in my care. And he was 100% right. I was like, I'm not that drunk. It was 2 bottles of wine. Like, I was so adamant that I was fine. I wouldn't leave my kids with me either. So, so he left with the girls, and I just was so mad that he would do that to me. So I just went and got more drink. Like, now I don't have my kids. It just was like off the rails, horrible. So, the next day, I forget whose suggestion it was, but, actually, it was a therapist that we were seeing. She's like, you should probably go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I know a great place. And I was like, no, he's the problem. He's why we're here, which was a lot of truth to that. But so I go, and I love it. Like, I loved it. I walked in super nervous, but, you know, we all speak the same language, and I felt it, and it was incredible. It was amazing, and everybody sat out front and smoked cigarettes. That was awesome, because I smoke cigarettes, so we got to talk, and then we'd have the meeting, and then after the meeting, we'd hang out, and I was like, this is super cool, and nobody drank, and they went out to dinner on Fridays, and I wanted more of that. I wanted more of what they had, and, I mean, talk about jumping in head first. So I was going to meetings and reading the big book, and I did start working with a sponsor. I had not admitted to step 1 at all. So it was only a matter of time before I went out and drank again, and I did. And Jason, my husband at the time, He didn't like that I was spending so much time away from home. You know, in his mind, and I can't blame him. He's like, you spent so much time in the backyard drinking and out with your friends drinking and so much drinking that you're finally not drinking and now you're not here. Like, he didn't get it. And I didn't know how to explain it. I just was like, well, I need to go. And he's like, no, you need to be here with your family, which he was right too. You know, never did I think, maybe there's a meeting that's not smack dab in the middle of the evening. Never did I think, maybe I can go to a 6:30 a.m. meeting before the kids wake up, you know, because I just was so like, okay, well, now I'm not going to go. And I don't blame him for that. I completely understand, because I did take so much time away, and I was so selfish and self-centered. So I didn't drink for, it was about 7 or 8 months. And then, you know, it's like, and again, it talks about it in the book. Well, maybe just one drink. Like, right, let's go test this alcoholic theory. And it was fun. It was at a wedding. It was great. It was Half Moon Bay. It was beautiful weather. We were at the Ritz-Carlton. I had a fancy drink from the bar. And it was a few drinks. Totally nothing crazy. And retired the night fine. I was like, okay, I'm not an alcoholic, right? That's what I was thinking. So, of course, now I'm like, let's do it again. But we're gonna monitor it. And I mean, you know, my drinking picked up right where it left off. Only, and I heard this before, you know, a belly full of booze and a head full of AA does not mix very well. Because I knew I was alcoholic. I just wasn't ready to not drink. And so, fast forward all of that, we moved to Texas in 2017. In California, Shannon was an alcoholic. Texas, Shannon's not. So we can drink because, you know, wherever you go, there you are. And I remember unpacking the garage, and the big book I had at the time, I threw it away. I didn't need it. I didn't want it. I didn't want that representation of my past life. Oh, boy, was I wrong. So the events of us being here in Texas have been catastrophic, to say the least. So I wrote a little timeline down here, which was crazy because I'm like, damn, that is a lot for anyone to go through. And it just blows my mind what God can give you and that you can work through and that you can handle. So we moved in August of 2017, just a few weeks before Harvey. Coming from California, give me an earthquake. Totally fine with that. Hurricane, no clue. So someone said, go to the grocery store. I found the Heb, which is not HEB. And then they're like, just fill up your bathtubs and get all the canned tuna and you'll be fine. Okay. I was like, it's like Black Friday shopping down the bread aisle. I'd never seen anything like it. I was taking pictures, sending it to my friends back home, like, this is crazy. Well, you know, and then Harvey hit, and it was crazy. And, you know, luckily we weren't affected in that realm. We couldn't leave for a few days, but that was just what did we do? This was a mistake. So that was August of 2017. And my drinking at this point is it's unfiltered because I'm not working. Because it would be a great idea for me to move to a brand new state and not work so I can get the kids through their final high school years and be a stay-at-home mom and have 4 acres in Magnolia with chickens, and it's just going to be great. I'm not going to have time to drink because I'm going to have all of these barn animals, and I wanted that. It sounded so good, and you know, the thing about it is it could have been so good, but my alcoholism got in the way. So earlier, when I was talking 35 minutes ago, when I said about the drinking and driving, how I drank and drove with my children, well, that came back to bite me, as it should have. And, you know, I had CPS called for something I had done so long ago. And talk about just absolute shame. And And how do I ever make that up to my girls? You don't, and that was something I was so embarrassed about. I couldn't talk about it. It was something that I was so convinced I was going to stuff down and just never ever mention until I came in here, got a sponsor that I can talk about that too, and then slowly opened up to a meeting. And there are a lot of people in here that needed to hear that for whatever reason that they were going through, And again, like I said earlier, our secrets keep us sick, and that was keeping me sick, and that was blocking me from the beautiful part of recovery and being vulnerable. So that was in May of 2018. I found out my husband was having an affair June of 2018. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer December of 2018. I moved out in February of 2019, got sober April of 2019. I got divorced November 1st, 2019. My mom died November 15th of 2019. That was a lot. That was a lot for you to go through too, Alyssa. When I drank to celebrate. I drank over all of these crazy things like, it's a good day, it's a bad day, it's raining outside, or, there's always a reason to drink. But it's funny because as I'm writing this timeline, I'm like drunk. Oh, shit gets real hard. Sober. Made it through divorce. Made it through my mom. Sober. Now, that is God doing for me what I cannot do for myself, and that is our 12th promise, which is behind here. We have our promises on the wall because they do come true. And so, God doing for me what I could not do for myself was keeping me sober through that. And I was able to make a living amends to my mom. Did I say it wrong? Are they still behind there? They're over there. I saw you. I'm like, did I say it wrong? So, sorry guys. So our promises are moved over there, and they're amazing, and they're called promises for a reason because they come true. And the third promise, not regretting the past or wanting to shut a door on it. Back with the CPS and the drinking and driving and all the shameful things that I had done, I looked at that and I'm like, how can that ever come true? How could I ever not regret my past? Well, what I didn't know is it becomes an asset, which is wild because it's like how negative into a positive, like what? And, I'm free from that shame now because of that. So that promise did come true. But anyway, so I got to make a living amends with my mom. So all of the hatred that I felt and the anger and all of that, like being able to work that out with Carrie, like step by step, and understanding that I was incredibly selfish. I was so controlling. I never saw her for who she was. I saw her for who I wanted her to be. And that, who am I to say that? Like, who am I? Like, it was this crazy, weird, mental, just not allowing her to be her. And then I think, no wonder she was depressed and wanted to take pills. Like, I was a horrible daughter. I did not make her life easy. And then seeing that all written down, oh my God, I was just like, and now she has cancer. And that part sucked. But through that, I got to say I'm sorry. Like, really sorry. We talk about making amends. And they're uncomfortable. Nobody likes to go and make amends, but being able to, it was like every day. My mom's probably like, all right, Shannon, you've said sorry enough. Like, it's okay. I forgive you. But in this program, like, we're taught to just love unconditionally, and just all of these things that I just wanted her to feel. And I was able to walk through that without drinking. Crazy, the divorce without drinking. What? I mean, I couldn't even pay my bills without drinking, and it's just amazing to me what this program can offer. Okay, so moving on to the last part, what it's like now, it's beautiful. Life isn't always great. Like, there's still mending relationships. Some of those amends I had made, friendships weren't restored from that. And this program has taught me that's okay. Like, I can't make someone accept my amends. I can't make someone like me, Like, damage I've done is done. That was really hard. But it's okay, because I wrote a note down here. Because everything's all right already, And those relationships, I just have to move on from that. The promises. I'm a huge vision board person, right? I got a vision board. Like, anything I want to manifest, I put it on there. Like, I get dressed looking at it. Like, I had those promises on there, and I just, like, every day I read them, and I just wanted them so bad. And the beautiful thing is, I could see some coming true, but then others were like past tense. I'm like, wow, oh my, that was a promise, and it's just, it's amazing if you keep doing the next right thing, work in this program, like, wow, and they come true over and over and over again. Like, it's not just a one and done, which was really exciting for me, because I'm like, keep them coming. But that's a gift of recovery, and, peace and serenity. When I was drinking, all I wanted to be was happy. Like, even Jason would come to me so frustrated and just like, Shannon, what is it? I just want to be happy. God, that's such a shit answer. Like, it's fluid. Like, you're not happy all the time. Like, who would want to be happy all the time? What I wanted was peace and serenity. And I didn't know what that was, or how to get it. So happy I am, yes. I have way more good days than bad. But even on those bad days, I have serenity. And that is such a beautiful thing. And that is a gift of this program. We talk about, alcoholism. Alcoholism is a family disease. And I shared a little bit about growing up and, with my grandma coming over and spending the night and all of this and that, and all of the things I said that I wouldn't do to my girls I've done. The beautiful part of that, though, is, yes, it's a family disease, but it also can be a family that recovers. There's a chapter in the big book. It's called The Family After. And where's Bill? Where's Bill Futrell? Oh. I remember talking with him because I couldn't read The Family After. It was too painful. Like, it was about, like, mom and dad getting back together again and the kids getting happy and this and that. And that wasn't my after. My after was different. And, we would talk about that. And when we would do the big book study, I just would be like, because pages were coming, and I'm just not going to make it for the next couple weeks because I really don't want to do The Family After. And how selfish, again, of me is that? It comes back to that selfishness and self-centered, right? Like, I needed to hear that because my family after looked different, but it's about restoration, and it's about the family recovering. Again, like with the amends, not everyone's going to accept your amends and embrace you, and you're going to go, on the way things were. That is the family after, It just looks different now. And that was really hard for me to accept, that it looks different now. And I love the way it looks now, but it took me a long time to get there. So, I cannot believe that I've talked this whole time, guys. Let me just say, whew. I hope what I said makes some sense. And if I can just say, anything, like, this book saved my life. And the first 164 pages are our solution, but there's stories in the back. And I'm a chicken soup for the girl kind of reader. Like, I love stories. So I started with the stories in the back. And that was a beautiful way for me to get introduced to the first 164 pages because I could relate to the stories in the back. So I'm thankful for that. But I do want to finish with this. So it's a vision for you on page 164 of the Big Books of Alcoholics Anonymous. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize that we know only a little. God will continually disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events shall come to pass for you and countless others. That is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you. Sorry, guys. I should have you read this. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road to happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you. Thank you. My name is Shannon. I'm grateful.